Oh, sorry for the first couple seconds and the shakiness here. That is much better. Dang! How you guys doing tonight? Welcome back to another episode. If you're watching this on the replay, my name is Tyler, and this is Hooksets Are Free. This is an educational fishing platform, and we talk about bass fishing primarily here. Looks like I've got one thumbs up, but nobody's in here watching. Not sure how that happened, but what's up? How's it going, guys? I am not streaming on Instagram tonight. I'm straight up on YouTube here for you guys. I don't know if you can tell, but the quality, at least to me, looks much better. I am using my selfie camera instead of my rear facing camera, but using my cell phone. I'm streaming mobile. So, Brian, Riley, what's up, guys? I am doing well, very well. How are you guys tonight? You tell me. You've watched the last couple times. How's the quality look compared to before? How's the volume? How's the quality? Beforehand, I had been streaming on my camera or on my computer webcam, and now I'm on my phone camera, which the resolution should be better. So, just want to know how it is for you guys, and if I should be turning it around or what. The only problem is if I switch it around, then I'm going to need to say open up my iPad or my computer and watch on a different screen so that I can see the comments come in, because otherwise, quite frankly, I'm not going to be able to see what you guys are saying. And like I said just a minute ago, it is just me and you guys. So, you still in here? Riley says looks a lot better. Sounds good too. It's good to hear. How was your guys' week? And what I forget, where do you guys live? Hold the bait up closer. Sure. Not sure that it's gonna autofocus for you, but just so you have a sense of color. That's kind of what we're working with. It's green pumpkin. How's that, man? I'm gonna show you some baits for sure. Like, how's this red look? Can see color good, says Brian. Right on. All right, Riley. Louisiana, and your week could be better. They canceled school for a month. Holy, that is crazy. That is a long time, and I am sorry to hear that. It's unfortunate. This is a kind of an unprecedented time that we're in. Uh, Obviously, just being caught off guard with a new disease like this that we just don't know how to handle. But canceling school for a month, like, how does that even work, Riley? You're in high school, right? Are you guys just gonna extend the school year halfway into the summer, or are they going to assume that you guys are going to learn the material at home, or how are you going to test into the next grade? How's that going to work? We are going to talk fishing in a minute here, but um, I just want to know how you guys are doing, how your week is going, and why the heck does it say to me that there are 0 people in here? Are you guys leaving and coming back in? Or is my connection funky? Because that would kind of upset me if that's the case. Maybe I do need to hop on another platform to just see what's going on. Have you been in here the whole time, or did you bounce out and get back in? He said, I don't know, they just canceled it today. You're going to set some online courses, but you're steady set on the next grade. I'm not sure what that means. All right. Well, that's weird, Brian. You guys are both here, but I think other people have come in and out, and it doesn't show it. So Skiing was awesome. Thank you for asking, Brian. As I told you guys last week, it was a guys' weekend. We went up to the mountains in Vail, which is kind of my home mountain here in Colorado, and there were five of us, kind of half of our regular monthly poker group, and we had a blast. So we skied all day Saturday and Sunday. By all day, I really mean we started at 11 a.m. and skied till like 3. So we went really hard. We got a lot of skiing in during those 5 hours. Didn't take a lunch break or anything like that. But we had a blast. We did drink a fair amount uh, of whiskey, and we did smoke some marijuana. Which, sorry if you don't like that kind of thing, but we had a fun time just as guys. Getting away from the family. The sticky icky was good, man. My one of my friends always has a good supply and brought his with him, and so we don't go too hard these days. We're really just rolling joints. Um, we don't have glass pieces or anything like that. We don't smoke blunts. It's not too intense, but a few joints a day. Kind of one before fishing and one in the evening, or something like that. But good little compliment to the alcohol. I did not watch MLF, man, but I heard on Alex Rudd's live stream just last hour um, that MDJ whooped him. He smacked like 80 some pounds. Is that right? Looks like I've got a delay of about a few seconds where I'm watching, and quality looks okay to me. I wonder if, though, I flip it around just so you guys can see. Big fish was fun to watch in a small cove. So I flipped this around now and cannot see. I'm sorry to be fiddling during the live stream. This is somewhat unprofessional, and I'm just trying to get it figured out. But quality doesn't really look better to me on this rear-facing camera. Does it to you guys? So I'm watching the replay over here on my iPad, and can see your comments rolling through. Can see that 5 people are watching. But Brian, you say caught all of them in a little cut. That's pretty wild. I heard he caught him on like a methylate zoom trick worm, which is super wild. Tell me real quick, do you like the view better this way or no? Because I very well might switch it back just so that I don't have to be looking over here to see your guys' comments, because it's going to look a little bit obnoxious for me to constantly be looking over to see what you're saying and then look back at the camera just so that we're interacting with each other. So leave a comment. Let me know if you think the quality is better or not. Brian, switch back. Riley says yes, though. What do I say? What do I do? Is Ray in here, by the way? I'm switching back, guys. Sorry you had to see some of my basement there. All right. That's all we're doing. I'm turning my iPad off. I think this is even better, to be honest with you. Only thing is I need to try and keep these messages visible all the time. All right. I wish I could bring you guys in live with me, kind of like you can do on Instagram, but I don't know how to do that. here on YouTube. I don't think that feature exists. Yeah, I agree, Brian. If we're just kind of chatting with each other, it's a little bit more natural than me just over here. Especially when you think about last week and I was just constantly looking at Instagram as the comments were just like flying up. I apologize for that. So, my bad. Eyes are on you guys. Attention is on you guys tonight. We're going to talk about a few things fishing related. Riley, you had a question, didn't you? Opinion on glide bait. Caught a 6 pounder on it today. Nice pre-spawn. You did? Riley. She. What kind of glide bait were you throwing? I mean, I've got good opinions on glide baits. I think they're a great bait to throw at a few different times of year specifically. You know, in the spring and the fall. I think they're great. But did you really catch a 6 pounder on a glide bait today? Not to say that I don't believe you or that you're not capable, but that is awesome. If I catch a 6 pounder on a glide bait this year, I would be ecstatic. Red Eye Shad. What you talking about? Sorry, I hear footsteps upstairs and I can't tell if that's my dog just resituating or if that's one of my daughters getting out of bed. Specifically my 4-year-old. So I'll let you know if I have to run upstairs for a second. Now, Riley, clarify, because a red eye shad is not a glide bait. A red eye shad made by Strike King is a lipless crankbait. Like this guy right here. Okay? And a glide bait is a single jointed hard swim bait like this. Okay? Very different baits in size, profile, sound, everything. Which were you throwing? You say made by XPS. Okay, that's a Bass Pro Shops bait, but was it a glide bait? Like this? Because they make a copy of the River to Sea S waiver. Or were you throwing a lipless crankbait? Like the red eye shad? What were you throwing? Because my opinions on both are a little bit different. And I'm happy to talk about them, but what you're saying doesn't make sense. And I don't say that to be rude or mean in the least bit. Just trying to understand where you're coming from and what it is that you're really talking about. Because I want to answer your question and have a chance to chat about it for a minute before I get into my spiel and showing you guys what I want to talk about, talking to you guys about my week of fishing, even though it was pretty abbreviated. But Riley, yes, it just has a gray body, but it has red eyes. It's a glide bait, like the one you're holding up. Okay. That's cool. I do have one of those somewhere. And I honestly don't know why I bought these in the first place, but this is the XPS glide bait. I've got both sizes. They don't make the 200 size, but this is the 168. This is the 120. Do you happen to know which size you were throwing, Riley? So it's got that red eye you were talking about. Is yours about the size of your hand? Ow. Or is it smaller? The 120 is about a 5-inch bait. The 168 is about a 6 almost 7-inch bait. Um, in my opinion, okay, so it's the 168. I do think it's a good bait. Do recommend it. But check this out. It's a different color pattern, right? This is a rainbow trout, and this is the I think River to Sea calls it light rainbow, something like that. Light rainbow trout. I should know, but look at just how blatant of a copycat job this is by XPS. Sorry about that. It's gonna happen every time we stream. So take a look at this, guys. Brian says Wheeler's gonna smash him tomorrow. Yeah, when isn't he gonna smash him, dude? He always does. Wheeler is an absolute hammer. He's a beast. Now, I'm going to show you these a little bit up close. Can you see just how identical these two baits are? If I'm not trying to get hooked here, but I want to show you guys that this bait, these tails, same exact material, same exact body style. Look at that. I have to put kind of a lot of pressure on these tails to bend them. They're both that hard-ish plastic. They bend a little bit, but XPS has done this a few times. Now, it's not quite as blatant with, like, you know, their whopper plopper. They call the double plop down or something like that. But with the S-Waver, this is the same bait. The joint looks to be just a little bit steeper, like more shaved off, but I'm usually not a fan of blatant copycat baits. The S-Waver by River to Sea is a pretty affordable bait. This thing costs like 20 bucks. Full retail. Comes with really heavy duty, solid hardware on here. The split rings, the treble hooks, all of it. Now I do upgrade the snaps. I use the Spro Prime snap. But the XPS swim bait comes with much lighter wire stuff that personally I would recommend upgrading. Split rings and treble hooks, straight up. Now, of course, you can catch fish on these, but it's going to affect the action, and it is going to potentially risk catching big fish. You know, a 6-pounder might end up being able to throw the hook and bending out the hook. So anyway, that's totally on you, Riley. Your choice to make, but I think you pay something like 11 or 12 bucks for the XPS swim bait, and you pay something like 20 bucks for the S-Waver. And tough to beat the S-Waver, period. It's a tried and true, proven bait. This is the bait, and the XPS glide bait is the copycat. So that's just kind of how it goes. I feel a little bit mixed, but generally speaking, am kind of against going with copycat baits. Brian says, did you see that the new Mother swim bait they came out with is like a 16-inch long? I did not, but quite frankly, I don't see myself throwing a 12, 14, or 16-inch bait for at least a handful of years, or until I start pursuing other species of fish. Anything over 5 ounces, you know, pushing 10, 15, or even a pound. Some of these baits are getting absolutely crazy. I know, like, Savage Gear puts out some monster baits. And no, Brian, I actually don't sand the joint on my S-Waver. I know that people do make it a little bit steeper so you get that wider action, but I haven't really played around with that too much. Haven't found a need to do so at this point in time. I'm really trying to understand how the bait works stock. I'm wherever possible, I try not to tinker and run things stock when I can, unless I see a whole bunch of recommendations elsewhere that kind of everybody tends to do it that way. But I see enough stuff, people saying run the S-Waver stock, at least when it comes to the joints and the action straight out of the pack. Riley says, yeah, definitely agree about a cheap knockoff kind of and trying to find an S-Waver. I hear you. Wayne, what's up, dude? Just getting on. Honestly, you haven't really missed anything. We've been on 20 minutes, and I was fiddling around for way too long. So I feel so bad for everybody who's going to watch this on the replay. Um, this is the first time that I've streamed live on my phone instead of my computer. Um, I was just enabled for mobile live streaming. I don't even know if I've been enabled for monetization on videos yet. So this, I just wanted a higher quality video for you guys. So tried hopping on my iPad first so that I could use my phone for Instagram, and that didn't work. So I had to restart the stream, and then I've been using my front-facing camera, the selfie camera, and poor Riley and Brian in here have been sitting watching me fiddle around, flipping the camera around, asking them if the quality's been better or not. And so we just got settled about 10 minutes ago. We debriefed a little bit about my weekend, last weekend skiing with some buddies, and we talked about Riley being off of school in Louisiana for a month, which is absolutely insane. So we are just getting into talking about fishing, and Riley asked a question about glide baits, how I feel about them, and told me that she caught a 6-pounder on the red eye shad. So we were just talking about what bait she was talking about specifically, and that is the XPS glide bait, which is a straight up copycat of the River to Sea S-Waver 168. But she netted a 6-pounder today, and that is wicked. So congratulations, Riley. I hadn't said it yet, but that is awesome. If that's not your PB, it would be mine actually at the moment, and I'm hoping to catch a 6, 7, 8-pounder this year. And a glide bait is not a bad way to do it. There are a lot of different ways to work the bait. Curious to know actually how you were retrieving it when you got bit. Talking about gear and line and all of that setup is a different story, but in terms of where in the water column you were fishing it and how you were working the bait interests me a little bit more. So if you wouldn't mind just leaving a comment there, letting us know real quick, Riley, because 6-pounder on a glide bait during the pre-spawn is sweet. Good for you. Congratulations. That is super cool. Brian, thinking about building a rod seems like it'd be a fun thing to do. Absolutely. That thought crossed my mind about a month ago or so as I was just poking around, looking at all the different manufacturers that are making rods these days. It seems like it's gotten out of hand, just like baits. And there is a million different manufacturers making budget-friendly and mid-price range rods these days. Like, you don't have to go spend $300, $400, $500 on a rod anymore to get really high quality stuff. So yeah, there are a couple places that you can buy blanks and all of the gear. It's eluding me at the moment right now. Riley, 8-pound, 7-ounce is your PB. You pop it once or twice a little bit. What'd you say? So that it turns and looks at the fish. Yep, absolutely. So what, are you doing a steady retrieve and then pop it once or twice? You slow rolling it or are you working a little bit more erratically, or are you working it like a jerk bait? Either way, popping it to, or did you see the follower first before you turn the bait around at it? I'm always curious to know that. Typically, a glide bait like that is going to run much higher in the water column, talking 1 to 3 feet deep. So you should be able to see it coming and identify followers. And a lot of times, what a glide bait will do for you, more so than catch fish, is actually identify where the fish are. So you'll get followers come and track your bait, but not actually go after it, and then they'll fall off and go back to where they came from. And so then from then on, where they live. You can follow up right then with a different bait, or you can come back later and throw something different to get them. Riley says retrieve it sometime a little slow or a little fast, depending on the water. Fair enough. Yeah, I wasn't talking generally. I was just wondering how you caught that 6 today. Scott Martin has a cool video on his channel about how to turn it toward the fish. Yep. A lot of baits will do that for you. But the S-Waver is tried and true. Very affordable, entry-level swim bait. Worth giving a shot. Plus, you can throw it on a lot of different gear. You can throw it on a heavy power, fast action rod, just like a 7.5 foot flipping frogging stick, and that'll do the job for you. So the glide bait that I'm really excited to throw this year is the Stormer Rashi glide. This bad boy was new last year at ICAST. Brandon Palaniuk was in large part responsible for the design of this bait. As you'll see, the joint is a little bit more aggressive on this one than it is on the S-Waver. The tail is soft. It's got swiveling hook hangers, and it comes with some great gear, but I upgraded the hardware on it. Comes in some really great colors, and the action is undeniable. But it's a bigger bait, right? This is, I forget how long, like a 190, something like that. I think it's called the 19. So compared to a 168, it's a little bit longer. It does weigh like 3.25 ounces compared to the S-Waver at something like 1.5 ounces. So definitely changes the gear that you got to throw it on. Riley, slow retrieve today, popping it. That's awesome. Well, good for you. One more time, congratulations. That is super cool. Happy for you. And I'm hoping to land a couple really good fish on glide baits here in the next couple of months as well. So, Stormer Rashi glide, Savage Gear Shine Glider, River to Sea S-Waver, new prop duster by Chase Baits. And then I throw, these aren't glide baits, these are multi-joint. The Spro BBZ1 in the 6-inch. Those are going to be the baits that I'm utilizing primarily this year. And I can't wait to catch some biggins on them. Brian says, do you think Strike King line will be any good? From what I've heard and seen so far, I think it will. Quite honest, I don't know who's making it, but everybody who's talked about it so far has pretty much only said good things. And of course, the pros are inclined to say so, and marketing needs to be up there. But I have no idea what the price point is. I haven't seriously looked into it. I kind of stick to what I stick to, and to be honest, I'm not that brand loyal when it comes to line. I like Seagar for fluorocarbon. I like Power Pro and Suffix for braid, and I like Maxima for mono primarily, but I will venture a little bit outside of that. So again, I'm not super brand loyal. If Strike King were to come at a significantly lower price point and make some super high quality stuff, it would be one thing. But seeing what has happened in the market the last couple of years, how everybody seems to be putting out braid, and now everybody's making their own fluorocarbon. Um, my guess is that it's made in the same places overseas, and that the quality is what it is, and that really you're identifying with the brand more than the subtle differences in the line itself. So I don't have any opinions yet. Definitely haven't tried it yet, and I'm not going to try it this year. I've got enough line to last this year. I actually haven't spooled up all of my reels yet. That is something I want to talk about. An issue that I had earlier this week, because I I was not fully intending on going fishing this week. Um, it was a standard work week for me, and I made it out on Tuesday, and or maybe this was Monday. We've been having super warm weather here in the Denver metro area for the last couple of weeks. And I've been going up to the mountains skiing almost nonstop. So haven't paid attention too much to water. I've got one pond in my neighborhood that doesn't have fish in it. And I've noticed that there's been ice along the edges. Um, and I use that as kind of my reference point for the most part. But I, about a month ago or a couple weeks ago, made a trip to a few different bodies of water and saw that they were still totally frozen. So kind of left those be, and was not obsessing over it. But I did stop by again on Monday and saw that one of my small lakes close by that I like to frequent was completely thawed out. And it's bigger than pretty much any of the ponds that I fish. And so that clued me into the fact that it and anything smaller is thawed. And a lot of lakes and reservoirs bigger than it are still frozen, have something like 4 to 8 inches of ice, and will be thawed out in the next month or so. But my smaller bodies of water that I can hop around and in between and go for a quick session are ready to go. So luckily, I brought a couple rods and reels with me, just two. And right before I left, I packed this box. Shout out Hank at Bass Geek. A little free promo for him. So as you can see, I packed up two Savage Gear bluegill swim baits, one baby boom boom swim bait. That's weedless. Packed up two Strike King quarter-ounce swim jigs. One that I had turned into a chatterbait. One standard. I use these for different water clarities and for throwing up shallow. Brought one Thunder Cricket, half-ounce red. One Rage Bug on a Power Finesse Rooms jig head like we talked about last week. And then brought an assortment of lipless crankbaits, DT4s, KVD 1.5s, and 3 different jerk baits. So wanted to just be more or less ready for most stuff. This body of water has a little bit of variety. It's got a dam where the water is anywhere from 8 to 15 feet deep, and the fishing along that riprap is pretty good. And then it rounds the corner. There's a point that goes onto a shallow flat, and I almost know for sure that that's the way that the fish migrate up to spawn. And so my intention was to catch them deep or staging, and I really didn't know what to expect. So I had a Megabass Vision 110 in the matte shad tied on, and the Megabass Mag Draft Freestyle 6-inch in the MB Gizzard Shad color. Both are a little bit more clear water than would be appropriate in the conditions that I found. So that's unfortunate. Let me catch up real quick. Riley says, thanks. Hope you can break your PB as well. Appreciate it. Wayne says, also have a big order coming in from Discount Tackle. Right on, man. You checked it out the other night when I recommended them. Absolutely. I will talk about that in a minute. I have a little bit of an unboxing to show you guys that I did pre-record the official unboxing video for, but I'm going to show you guys. And you asked Red Label for Seagar. No, I did buy a spool of Red Label, 15 pound, a couple weeks ago when they had it running on sale super cheap. They had it 50% off. So ordinarily Red Label's like 15 bucks a spool. So for $7.50, I couldn't help it. I was kind of tempted to get a handful of spools, but don't really need it at the moment. I actually have some of the Berkeley Vanish in a few different sizes stocked up that that I need to use before I use something like Red Label. I put those two on par, or maybe even the Berkeley a little bit ahead. But I like the Invisex probably most out of the Seagar line, but I also use the AbrazeX. It kind of depends on the application. So I will use Invisex for moving baits, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, swim jigs sometimes. I use braid to leader or straight braid for swim jigs a lot of the time, but Invisex I will use for moving baits, and AbrazeX I will use for bottom baits. So if I'm throwing jigs or Texas rigs, I'll throw the AbrazeX a little bit more frequently. But yeah, different applications. You know, Red Label I think is a decent all around. I would probably use it in the same place that I would use Invisex, but I just like Invisex a little bit more, especially if I'm throwing, say, a jerkbait. So to each his own. You know, line is just one part of the equation, and I think it's one thing that people take a little bit too seriously, think about just a little bit too much. So I like to look for good deals. I like to try things out when I hear really good things about them, etc. So anyway, I had those two baits tied on, got to the water and saw that it was pretty stained, to be honest. And so neither of the baits that I had tied on were the right ones to throw that day, but I threw them anyway. Threw that jerk bait in the stained water, and it's that color that I love so much, but it's really not for stained water. In general, jerk baits aren't, but depending on what you're throwing, can work out. But the matte shad color is not really a great stained water jerk bait, I'll say. So threw it for about 10 minutes and decided to bail on it. No bites, no luck. In fact, when I was throwing it up near the point and trying to bring it down, I was hitting bottom a little bit more frequently than I wanted to be. The water level was a little bit lower than I expected it to be. So I took that off and threw on chatterbait and threw it for a little bit. Also did not get any bites there. So set it down, picked up the swim bait, and on like my third or fourth cast, got bit by 2 to 2.5 pounder, and that was awesome. So first bass of the year for me came on a 6-inch Megabass Mag Draft Freestyle in the MB Gizzard color, which is a pretty clear water color again, but was throwing that shallow, paralleling the bank where it drops off from a few feet down to 10 or 12 feet pretty quickly. And I'm pretty sure that a bait like that just puts off enough vibration, displaces a lot of water, moves a lot of water to where the fish can tell that it's there. They can feel it, come up to check it out, and I happen to get an active, more aggressive fish. So Brian's asking, what's your favorite bait on riprap fishing from the shore? Um, Typically, I like to throw a crankbait, but it depends on the time of year, right? So, being this early, I should have thrown on the DT6 before that jerkbait, to be honest. I just wasn't using my head. I was feeling rushed. I thought of it very last minute, like, oh gosh, maybe I had to stop by and see if the water's fishable. Let me grab a couple rods, grab a, dozen or two baits, just throw them in a box and go. I did not plan for this outing at all. So Rapala DT6 at this time of year, followed by a chatterbait, are probably my two favorite this time of year in that kind of water. I think a lipless crankbait would also work pretty well, but you just have to be careful not to let it settle down too far. So I like to yo-yo a lipless crankbait a lot this time of year, and so I will go to ponds or smaller bodies of water where I know there is not a lot of debris on bottom and where there's not a ton of rock where it's going to get hung up. So it totally depends, but on riprap, I want something that's going to either be able to contact the rocks or make enough sound or vibration that it's going to reverberate off of those rocks. So, during the summer, I think a whopper plopper is really hard to beat around riprap, just paralleling the bank. Great way to cover water. And so, again, it depends on the time of year. Wayne says, what's your chatterbait of choice? Robert says, what color chatterbait in stained water? So I'll answer both of those questions at once. Jackhammer chatterbait is my number one, straight up. It's my absolute number one producer and my favorite chatterbait to throw. Definitely one of my favorite baits to throw. It was my number one producer of all lures in 2019. And again, it depends on the clarity of the water. But in stained water, I really like that Bee Height Delight color, which is green pumpkin with a chartreuse belly. So this one right here, green pumpkin top, little bit of clear strands, and then pretty chartreuse on the belly. Paint the head chartreuse. This one, as you can see, the paint is chipping off of the blade, and the head is all beat up, but the skirt's starting to come apart too. But this one got a ton of use last year. I think another one that is tough to beat in stained water is white. I forget what they call this color, whether it's pearl white or shad or just straight white. I don't know, but really like this one. The one that I've been throwing this week has been the green pumpkin shad, which is green pumpkin on top and kind of a clear, here it is, green pumpkin top and like a clearish white on bottom with that red throat. Really like it. So anyway, those are probably, the Bee Height Delight and the white are probably my two go-tos in stained water. But this time of year, tough to beat a Heights Hot Craw. I threw this one a lot last year. And I do have all three of those that I just showed you are in a separate box up in the garage. I brought those with me along with this box. I keep them in a separate, smaller deal. One of these Planos. Because if you didn't already know, the Jackhammer chatterbait has a double wire keeper on it. and that guy will keep your trailer on extremely well. You cannot take the trailer back off and re-rig it. So you have to rig it right the first time, and once it's on there, you got to keep it on there. And I've found that it's a problem when trying to store your baits all together in one container. Like I've got, 50 chatterbaits in this one 3600 size box, but I've got it divided into 3 long ways. So I could not have a trailer on any one of these and put it back in the box. And the issue is once you do, then the plastic is going to start warping and you run the risk of things starting to melt together, especially if you're using an Elastec trailer. So I like to use Z-Man trailers for chatterbaits a lot. And so what I'll do is put my rigged ones together in one of these boxes, and I find that the colors don't bleed too bad. Elastec doesn't warp too bad either. So I use 3 different trailers by Z-Man. The Razor Shads, when I'm going for a straight up shad profile, I'll use the Diesel Minnows swim bait. If I'm going for more of like a minnow or bluegill type of profile and action, a little bit more aggressive kick to it, and then I will use the Turbo Craws with more of like a swimming, like a very similar to this UV Speed Craw type of kick by Zoom, and really like it, but more for a craw type of profile, or if I want it to swim higher in the water column. So either way, I keep those 3 rigged kind of at all times and in a separate box, and I have those with me. So sorry to go on a little bit of a rant there, but red is also a great one to throw this time of year, not necessarily in stained water, but in the springtime. Now, the other one that I really like to throw is the Strike King Thunder Cricket. And I just showed you one of those. And I showed you last week that I bought 3 of those. Pretty sure I showed you last week. I unboxed those for you guys. So the Thunder Cricket is like the finesse version of the jackhammer. And I'm really sorry to take so long to answer your question. I don't know if it was Wayne or... Yeah. So, Wayne, I hope you're still with me. The jackhammer is super aggressive, okay? It makes a ton of noise coming through the water. That hexagonal blade makes contact with the head, starts up fast, but it's really loud in the water. The action is aggressive, and it has kind of a natural hunting to it. If you ever pop your rod or you reel a little bit faster, that thing's going to go off track and come back to you. And it is really tough to beat. It's got a Gamakatsu flipping hook in it, like a 4-aught, maybe it's a 5-aught. And it's really good. Now, the Strike King Thunder Cricket, as you can tell, that blade is rounded, and it also moves a little bit freely inside the head. There's a groove inside the head that allows the blade to move up and down as it's going side to side. I don't know how much it does or not versus just staying right here like the Z-Man would, but it makes just a little bit of a difference. Otherwise, the head shape is pretty similar. They're both relatively flat on bottom. They skip well. The hook in this bait, in the Thunder Cricket, is just marginally better. It's like the best hook you could put in a chatterbait. It is the Owner Zoar Jungle Flippin' Hook. Guggen Slayer, what's up, dude? Now, the blade is just a little bit thinner, and as you can see, it's connected to the head. So they did license the patent that Z-Man has, and they are paying royalties to Z-Man for this bait every time they sell one. But I think there's a reason for that, and they know that that's why Z-Man chatterbaits perform best and sell best. So, as has been the case in a lot of other lure categories recently, they took advantage of that, decided that that was the best route to go, and so they've got the direct blade to head connection, which is a good idea. But the thinner blade and the fact that it moves up and down a little bit makes this move faster and in a more subtle action. So you feel it less through your rod than you do the jackhammer. The jackhammer, you feel steady the whole time. It is a loud and hard thumping chatterbait. The Thunder Cricket is more subtle. You don't always feel it. So you're going to check on it a little bit more. It doesn't fade away the way that like would happen when you get a bite or if it fouls up. But it's a very light chatter. It starts up immediately. If you're working the bait harder or faster, you will feel it more. But otherwise, if you're doing a steady retrieve, you'll notice that it's moving faster and just more differently. So, in my opinion, the Thunder Cricket is like the flat side. If you're thinking of crankbaits, flat-sided crankbaits are better in cold water because they've got a tighter action or a little bit more subtle. Silent crankbaits, a little bit more subtle. The Thunder Cricket is your flat side or your silent version of the jackhammer. So, in my opinion, the jackhammer is what you'd throw most of the time, and the Thunder Cricket is what you'd throw as a follow-up bait or especially in cold water. But I'm going to throw the jackhammer a good 80% of the time and just try and make a point to throw the Thunder Cricket a little bit more this year. So, did just pick up 3 of them. Guggen Slayer says he threw his Thunder Cricket a few casts today. He was out on his yak for the first time in a year this week. Didn't get any bites, but he was pleased with the action. Good to hear it, man. Yeah, I think it's a really good bait. Again, I threw it this week and didn't get any bites on it either. But similarly, I was throwing in water in the low 40s. It is a little bit early for baits that aggressive. So like I was saying, should have been throwing, a DT6. I actually did bring one more rod with me that day. I had 3 rods. I did have a shad wrap in a red color tied on. Didn't get any bites on that. Like I said, the water was a little bit shallow, more dried up than I thought it would be. So that shad wrap in the size 7 was hitting the bottom a little bit too easy. Snagged up once or twice, had to pop it free, and it just, I was having to work it too slow. Every time it would make contact, I had to let it float back up. And it wasn't giving me the action that I quite wanted. So I opted out of that bait, even though it was probably the right bait to be throwing. Now, another flat side, I could have thrown a little bit shallower, made a point to be hitting the rocks. But again, I was out for a very limited amount of time. It just kind of is what it is. And I wasn't expecting to even fish. I just brought some stuff just in case. And I was happy to catch one. So Wayne says, I used the Thunder Cricket and jackhammer also. However, did just purchase 2 of the Z-Man, 1 Freedom, 1 Weedless. Want to try them? Yeah, so there are 3 other chatterbaits that I throw pretty frequently. And 2 of them are made by Freedom. So, not sure if you're referring to the Freedom CFL, the new swing head football chatterbait. This is one that came out just last year at ICAST. I only threw it a few times in the fall. And, in this white color, you can see it's a little bit beat up. But I like the idea of it for sure. I didn't catch any fish on it yet, but really like what it's about. Compared to all other chatterbaits, this guy runs low. You can fish this thing slow and make contact with the bottom the whole time. So I like that it's got a finesse cut jig skirt on the top. And I like that, of course, being made by Freedom, you can change out that hook, but it's a good hook that they've got in there. I think it's by VMC. On here, I've got a Magnum Rage Menace by Strike King. And so without trimming the skirt, it fits pretty well. And I look forward to throwing this bait a bit more, and will throw it in the spring here as well as in the summer when the fish are a little bit deeper. The other Freedom chatterbait that I like is the original Freedom chatterbait, which is the weedless. Comes with an EWG hook on a swim bait head. They make the swim bait or swim jig that is just this without the blade on it. I think it's called the Freedom Stealth swim jig, and that's a good bait. But you add the chatterbait blade directly to the head, and you've got a really good bait. There are very few weedless chatterbaits on the market. This is the other one, while we're on the topic of weedless chatterbaits, that I throw a fair amount and really, really like. Okay, this is the Project Z weedless. I actually don't like the regular Project Z all that much. This guy has a slightly different action to it, because if you notice here, tip of the head is such that when the blade goes side to side, it doesn't actually make contact with the head. So it has a different sound to it. In general, I think it's a good thing when the blade is contacting the head. Can you hear how much louder that is on the jackhammer? I think it's cool getting a different sound, but in general, I would throw the jackhammer most of the time. So it's such a subtle difference, that sound, that that I don't think it makes that much of a difference. The shank of the hook is a little bit longer on this bait, but the weed guard on it makes all the difference. Okay, a chatterbait is pretty weedless, but it is not very woodless. Okay, I haven't made that statement very frequently, but a lot of people would say you shouldn't be throwing a chatterbait around wood. I would disagree with that. I like throwing a chatterbait in any and all situations that I can. And yes, it likes to hang up if you're throwing it around laydowns or other pieces of timber. And it sucks to lose a chatterbait, especially a jackhammer, which I lost a few of last year when fishing in ponds. So that actually turned me on to the weedless Project Z. And I had a couple times where I threw this bait instead of the jackhammer and slayed them, especially a couple night fishing outings last summer where I was fishing bodies of water that I was not familiar with. So I had no idea where things were and what risks I was taking. So I was a little bit more cautious with some of the baits that are not as weedless and fishing them fast and not letting them get down too deep. And that's usually not a great idea, especially in the dead of summer. So anyway, those are three other baits that I really do like in the chatterbait category. That said, anything that Z-Man makes is really high quality. A couple others that I'm just a fan of in general are the bucktail chatterbait. The diesel chatterbait. As you can see, these heads are identical. The keepers are different on them. There is no keeper on the bucktail because it's made with hair. This is a hair jig, and it is hand tied on there. So once it wears out, what you're left with is this guy right here. This is the bare head on the bucktail. You can see it's got room to put, say, a skirt there, but no bait keeper. Not sure how well you can see that. Whereas the diesel chatterbait is made with a very aggressive metal keeper on there that is made to put a trailer on. So very different purposes, where the bucktail chatterbait is not meant to have a trailer, but rather just the hair. And the diesel chatterbait has a very aggressive keeper on there, meant just for a trailer and not a skirt of any type. So designed to be thrown with the diesel minnows in the 4-inch. Just a match made in heaven. Really like both of those baits and throw them from time to time, depending on the occasion as well. I will throw a variety of other bladed jigs and a few other chatterbaits too. But when it comes down to it, I throw the jackhammer the vast majority of the time, and I'm starting to throw the thunder cricket more and more where I wouldn't throw the jackhammer. But like I said, those two weedless versions come into play when I'm fishing around wood, and that new CFL is going to come into play where I'm wanting to fish chatterbait down deep. So I do like to throw a wobblehead from time to time, and I think I'm going to start throwing that CFL in place of it and use a standard, biffle hardhead as the follow-up bait. Would be a little bit more subtle. So anyway, we can get off of talking about chatterbaits. Sorry to go off on such a tangent there. Guggenslayer got bites on a square bill, jerkbait, and finesse jig. Right on, dude. Good for you. Okay, now let me get into new package. This is my monthly unboxing from Discount Tackle, part of my deal with them. And as I said, I pre-recorded an official unboxing that I am going to post here on YouTube in the next day or two. But you get free shipping if you spend $60 or more while shopping at Discount Tackle. That would be my recommendation 9 times out of 10. Use your savings, take advantage of the savings, spend enough money to get the free shipping. So plan out your purchases is kind of the moral of the story. Now, speaking of finesse jigs, the Z-Man Cross Eyes Power Finesse Jig is what it's called. Got 2 of these in the 3/8 ounce, one in green pumpkin and one in black and blue. I hadn't tried any of Z-Man's jigs other than that micro jig that I showed you guys last time. And I think the micro jig is a great little bait. It's a good deal, but essentially it's just a Ned rig on steroids, right? They took a Ned rig head, the Finesse Shrooms jig head, and they threw a skirt on it, and they beefed up the weight just a little bit. It comes in a 1/8 and a 3/16, and I really like the concept of it, right? You just work it like you would a Ned rig with a Ned rig bait on it, and let the skirt have a little bit, give the bait a little bit more bulk and some secondary action to draw fish in from a little bit further out. If you're fishing in, say, not quite as clear of water or with slightly more aggressive fish, I think that would be a good idea. So I I occasionally will exchange messages with Z-Man on Instagram. They will repost my pictures every now and again. I post a lot of Z-Man stuff and tag them, and we will just sometimes go back and forth in direct messaging. And I told them recently that there were a couple of baits that I was eyeing. Their sling blade spinner baits and some of their cross-eye jigs. And whoever runs their social media accounts told me that this cross-eye power finesse jig is the one that I definitely needed to try. So if you can see, it does have cross eyes, does have a short shank, 2/0. I believe it's a Mustad hook. Yeah, 2/0 Mustad Ultra Point, and it's got a wire keeper there. Okay, so kind of everything that you would want. Now they do pre-cut the weed guard, but do it relatively poorly. Not only is it uneven, but it's still too long. So I'm gonna trim it down about another eighth, almost a quarter of an inch. But this is a 3/8 of an ounce, relatively heavy, but it's small enough to where it borders between a finesse jig and a micro jig. So the recommendation by Z-Man was to take the TRD bugs and to throw it on there. And just for the hell of it, I'm going to do that for you right now. And just to see what it looks like. I might have a pack in the green pumpkin, but I happened to grab one here in the deal first. Haven't thrown one of these baits out of the package yet, so I'm going to go ahead and rig it up. The deal is green pumpkin top with a pearlescent blue belly. I don't think I have my scissors here, so I'm not going to trim the weed guard while I'm streaming with you guys right now. But like always, match it up to see where it should come out, which to me is about 3 to 4 ribs before the claws. Now, I'm going to just kind of scoot this out of the way, pull the weed guard down, start threading as best as possible. Now, as you guys know by now, I'm sure, Elastec is pretty tricky to get rigged up properly, so might not do this perfect on the first go. One trick that you need to do in getting, it's funny, I just flipped my hair that I don't have as if the jig skirt was hair, but instead of just pushing the bait up, one thing you can do is grab the neck and just yank it up, and it will come right up onto the keeper. And that will help do the trick of securing it on there. So this is not trimmed yet. I will likely trim the skirt just a little bit so that some of these strands that are down lower are closer to the base of the hook. And as I said, I definitely will trim the weed guard down just a little bit so that when you bend it down, it's just coming to the barb of the hook. Not the point of the hook, but the barb. So, very tiny profile here, but it's still a pretty substantial 2/0 hook. The micro jig from Z-Man comes with a size 1 hook. The Finesse Shrooms Ned Rig hook. And in my opinion, that's a little bit small to be throwing in a jig application. I like throwing that bait as kind of a Ned Rig on steroids, but this is a little bit different. You're going to flip this in and around cover in a different way that you're going to throw that micro jig. So anyway, got 2 of the cross eyes power finesse jigs from Z-Man. Those guys retail for $5 a pop. You can get them for 20% off. I got them for $3.99. So pretty stoked about having those in my lineup, and we'll throw them for sure. Next in the pack, got I'm gonna sound like a broken record when you guys see this, but this is the Yum Ned Craw. I've got 2 other packs sitting on my desk here that I've opened in the last 2 videos. Ray, you did miss this one. It's all good, man. We're an hour and 10 minutes in, and you missed some, but you're in the middle of an unboxing that I just started, so no big deal. I just opened the package and showed you guys 2 jigs that I got from Z-Man. The Cross Eyes Power Finesse jig. 3/8 ounce, 2/0 Mustad Ultra Point hook. Got this rigged with a TRD Bugs trailer on there. Okay. The Yum Ned Craw is a bait that I opened 2 weeks ago with you guys. Or maybe just last month in my monthly unboxing that this is essentially this package. I got 1 pack of them and was super impressed by it. It's realistic. It's tiny. It's got very natural colors on it, and it comes 8 to a pack for $2.39. Retails at $3. So, just a hell of a deal. Plus, it was in one of Tactical Basson's underwater videos from like a month ago, and I liked what I saw, so I thought I'd at least check it out. Once I opened it, held it in my hands, I thought, okay, I'm interested. Put it in my arsenal for sure, and then 2 weeks later, made an impulse buy. Here's what it looks like, by the way. So all the details are in there, but this guy is really tiny. It's a Ned rig bait for sure, but it sits up straight. You could also put this on the Z-Man, what do they call it? What is this hook called, guys? I should know, but forget what the name of it is. I throw this lifted jigs Ned EWG a little bit more frequently than the Z-Man one, but the Z-Man one, Brian, you want me to rig it up? Sure. Riley, that's a good idea. So here's what it's going to look like once rigged. So it's going to come out the body about, halfway through. So here's the thing to note about this hook in particular is that you're working with a very short amount of space before getting to the hook itself. So what you want to do is come in and out pretty quickly. So can you see that I'm not going in very deep? Now, this is an issue with this hook actually, because we do have a weight here, and I'm going to mess up the tail of the bait, but for the sake of it, I'm gonna go for it and see. Yeah. Frickin' Z-Man, you know, they kind of did this on purpose. You can do it with Elastec baits and it won't ruin the bait. It's not going to rip it, but I'm actually not going to be able to use this hook. Not at the moment without running a huge risk of messing up the integrity. So same deal with this lifted jigs Ned EWG. Go in and out very quickly. Now it doesn't have a weight in it, so I can just pull that right up like you would on a Texas rig. This is a slightly longer hook, so I'm going to line it up on the side, come through the back quite a bit closer to the head. Push that through and expose it on the back, and you will see This guy looks great, but here's the issue, is it's going to stand straight up, and those claws are going to go straight up. And that's not the most natural defensive position, okay? What I really like about this Z-Man hook is that it's got the weight on bottom, and it's got a bullet-shaped head instead of a mushroom-style head. So goes in and out of cover a little bit better, but more importantly, it wants to rest at this 45-degree angle. So it's going to present the bait at a much more realistic position defensively than straight up and down. So when fishing baits that are craws, I really like the Z-Man better. When fishing worms, if you want the weedless presentation, I really recommend the Lifted Jigs Ned EWG. Now, Owner does make their own version of this head now that just came out this year. But I gotta say, Lifted Jigs is a small company. They did it first. Everybody else is copying them now. It just is part of what comes with the game. But the hook that they use in the Lifted Jigs Net EWG is a solid light wire VMC 1/0 hook, and I like it quite well. So I still am going to keep supporting them and repping their baits and using that one. I like the color schemes on their heads much better. This is a chartreuse one, and the other one that I've got rigged up is purple. Owner only makes very plain, unpainted green pumpkin or black, and so anyway, I like to throw in a little bit of contrast there. So the Yum Ned Craw is a sweet little bait. When I made an impulse buy 2 weeks ago in order to get the Thunder Cricket, which I got an email notification saying it was back in stock. So I hopped on and saw that I wasn't the only person that did that. They were starting to sell out in certain colors and sizes pretty quickly. So I felt like I couldn't wait until now and still get the ones that I wanted. So I made an impulse buy, spent a little bit more money out of pocket, and got another order. Got 3 of those Thunder Crickets and a handful of other baits, a couple lipless crankbaits, and 1 pack of the Yum Ned Craws in the peanut butter and jelly color. So then I had 2 of those packs. And as I was getting ready to place this month's order, I stumbled back across the Ned Craw and thought, well, I got one in a reddish color, one in a purple brown color. How about one in a green pumpkin color? So this is called Soft Green Pumpkin. Again, very natural colors from the Yum Ned Craw. And one more time, they're $2.39 for a pack of 8 of them. So you get a buoyant, realistic, tiny, soft plastic craw. Tough to beat, If it ends up being effective, which I have a feeling, a hunch that it's going to be worth the price tag. Now, they don't strike me as the most durable soft plastic, but the realism and the price are enough to get my attention. This is more realistic looking than the TRD Craws right behind me, made by Z-Man, which has been one of my favorite Ned rig baits over the last 2 seasons by a long shot. Really, really like that bait and would highly recommend it to everybody. Now, moving on, I did get one lipless crankbait. I'd gotten one of these in my package last month. This is the Storm Arashi Vibe. This is a 1/2 ounce lipless crank, actually 9/16 of an ounce. And this color here is called Rusty Craw. It's more of an orange with like a reddish type of back. A couple of things that make this bait unique are the shape of the tail. Not sure how well you can see that, but it tapers down skinny and then actually goes a little bit fatter. Makes for a little bit more aggressive action in the water. And because it gets pretty thin here, you can run it at slightly slower speeds than other lipless crankbaits. It has what they call a self-tuning line tie. Not sure how real of a thing that is. The other thing that is different is the rotated hook hangers. I thought these were rotating, swiveling hook hangers like I showed you on the Storm Arashi glide bait, which was a reasonable assumption for me to make. But what they actually do here is set the line tie horizontal or perpendicular to the bait. Ordinarily, the line tie, not the line tie, but the hook hangers on the bottom of the bait run parallel. And then the split rings and the hooks go on from there. So, show you, for example, on like the red eye shad here. You can see that these hook hangers are parallel with the bait. On the Arashi Vibe, it is perpendicular. Okay, so just a little bit different there. Here it is, actually. This is the one that I got 2 weeks ago. So let me see if I can show you here. It's not wanting to focus, but see that? What it does is allow the hook to lay a little bit flatter on the bait, stay up more, and keep the bait just a little bit more weedless. Now listen to the sound too. As it says on the package, it has a soft knock rattle. This is like, it's not a rattle, but it's not a knock. This is the 2-tap. This is the red eye shad. This is the Arashi Vibe. So it's a really in-between type of sound, and I like that. Now the Berkeley War Pig, on the other hand, you get a loud but deep rattle. Red eye shad gets that loud but higher pitched sound. And of course the 2-tap is just like a 1-knocker sound. So it bridges the gap and gives you a slightly different bait, few different unique features, and runs for $7 a pop. Now, I need to plug in my phone or I'm gonna lose battery, unfortunately. And it's gonna get a little awkward here because I don't know that my charger is gonna reach. Let me see if I can pull this a little closer. I have to change my lighting, guys. Bear with me. Bear with me. Where do I set this? Right up on top. Are you guys still here? Leave a comment if you're still here. Hit the thumbs up if you haven't already. Low battery. What? This one, I just plugged that bitch in. Oh, am I tripping? I think I should be good. It looks like I'm lagging just a little bit, though. Tim Dunn just got here. Yeah, man, we're an hour and a half. You missed a little bit. We've been bojangling a little bit tonight. Just dilly-dallying. Just hanging out, chatting, talking about a few things. I have showed you guys a few things. Let's move on from lipless cranks. I feel like I see a lag on the screen. Do you guys see that too or no? Maybe not. Low battery. What is that? Ruh-roh. All right. I'm sorry if I just paused the live stream, but I'm back. I'm back. My battery is charging. It's plugged in. Should be okay. Two more people hit that thumbs up. I appreciate you guys. I didn't realize that so many people have been in and then bouncing back out. Yeah. Short pause. I'm back. I hope the lag goes away. We shall see. Ray says, almost bought the 110 plus one after watching Hank Cherry lay the hammer down with it. Then you saw the $24 price tag. And yeah, dude. It's a tough one to fork the price up for. Plus, if you're trying to buy that color, the Stain Reaction Orange Belly, it's sold out everywhere. Even the Stain Reaction regular version, everything like it is sold out. So I do recommend the Vision 110 jerkbait, period. I think it's a really good one. I showed people earlier on this stream that I've got the matte shad color that I really, really like. I've got the Table Rock SP color, purple top, chartreuse side, orange belly. This is the standard version. So this is kind of a smallmouth killer. I've got the silent version in the HT Edo Tennessee shad. Okay. Again, you got kind of a greenish, purplish top. You got a chartreuse goldish line, metallic foil, and a little bit see-through on the bottom half, and a pearl belly with a chartreuse tail. And this is the silent version. Really like that. And then I do have a silent in the matte shad. So right now I have 4 of the Vision 110s, and yeah, it's hard to fork up the money for them. I'm just slowly building my arsenal of 110s, and at the moment I'm making a point to try a wide variety of baits. So I will pick up a couple of each when I do try them out. Now, the Jackal Re-Range, the 6 Cents Provoke 106, the Lucky Craft Pointer 100, are all awesome baits for a little bit cheaper. And then, of course, you can step down from there. The Rapala X-Rap, the KVD 300 size, the I'm a Flit 120 is awesome. Those are all closer to the $10 mark. And my sleeper bait that I don't talk about very much, but I've mentioned somewhat recently, is the Lucky Craft Lightning Pointer XR98. Okay? If you don't already know about this bait, you need to look it up. Lucky Craft Lightning Pointer XR98. Okay? Brian says, why are your fishing videos so short? You should make longer fishing videos explaining how to fish different stuff. And I will. The reason why, Brian, is that I just started this channel a year ago. I just got a GoPro a year ago. And so I'm just fiddling around. And I'm mostly a pond hopper. And I don't go out for full day excursions. So I fish when I can. I go early morning or late night or on my lunch break. So um, I'm usually only out for an hour or two at a time, and I'm not playing around with videos so much as going fishing. So um, my goal is to just go out and have a good time and maybe catch a fish or two on any one given lure, and I'll play around. You say 10-minute videos are suggested by YouTube, mostly to viewers having video ADD. Um, Agreed. My fishing videos are short because I would chop up fish catches, and I wouldn't do an intro, I wouldn't do an outro, I wouldn't do a whole lot of explaining what I was doing. I was just recording my adventures. So, was not planning out videos or talking to the camera very much, at least last year. It's really just been in this past year that I've been playing around with what I'm going to do with this channel. And I think most of it's going to be educational content catering to the beginner fisherman, how to fish type of stuff. But I'm still brand new, man. So last year was the first year playing around with it, and I was mostly just chopping up um, the footage that I had from an hour or two at a time, and I'd grab a fish catch, and I'd throw it on there, and it's kind of just a cast to catch, um, short little video, mostly for my own sake to be able to go rewatch instead of having to sift through hours worth of raw footage. So I was not catering to the audience so much as just throwing stuff up there, and I hope that explains. Most of it was that I've been more active on Instagram than on YouTube over the past year and a half since starting this. And for some reason I was hesitant to make an IGTV video as opposed to just a 60-second clip that you can have as a normal post. Um, so I was making a point to trim them up to 1 minute segments. There are very few videos that I have from last year that were longer than a minute. So anyway, hope that explains, answers your question a little bit. But let me get back to that XR98 real quick, guys, because I think it's worth you guys having one or two or five in your arsenal. I do have, I think, four of them, and really, really like this bait. Okay, Lucky Craft baits typically run in the price range of $15 a bait. The Lightning Pointer 98 is a $10 retail price bait. And unlike the Pointer 100, which is kind of the OG suspender, you get a good sound, great action, $16 bait. Everybody's always thrown that bait. But the Lightning Pointer has a more tapered tail, slightly more aggressive action than the Pointer 100. Retails for almost half the price. Very similar sound, but it runs deeper and it slow sinks. So, something to pay attention to. A lot of people tinker with their jerkbaits to make them either slow float or slow sink. And I think an action that a lot of people really like is the slow sink, bordering on a super slow sink. Now, a true suspender is the most versatile, has its place more often than not. But a slow sink is something that I think a lot of anglers favor but don't talk about very often. So you can change a suspender by adding a split ring or upsizing the hooks, but that XR98 straight out of the pack does slow sink and it runs a little bit deeper, more like in the 6 to 7 foot range as opposed to 4 to 5 feet like the Pointer 100 and the Vision 110 that's kind of in the 4 to 6 feet. So it runs a little bit deeper than most standard jerk baits and does slow sink. So Anyway, has its place and is worth a look. Retails at that $10 price point, but you can get it on discount tackle for 20% off and get it for $7.99. So that price for a Lucky Craft bait that doesn't really seem to cut corners in any ways, super well built, great hardware on it, very durable bait with a great action built in, is almost impossible to beat. So if you guys don't pick up some of those Lightning Pointer 98s, I don't know what you're doing. But there's definitely a time and a place to throw it, and you should have some. Okay? Let me answer, or at least respond to what's going on here. Ray, you don't have confidence in jerkbaits. Okay, that's fine. And yeah, the Provoke 106X is an awesome bait anyway. Bass catcher for life. You use the Smithwick Rogues. Absolutely, man. That is a little bit more old school of a bait, but I've got a couple of them. I use the Elite 8 Rogue, and I use the rattling suspending in the smaller size. I think it's the junior. Yeah, hooks are getting me. So I think this is the small size. Either way, the Smithwick Rogue is a killer bait. There's that 6 cents Provoke. Love that it comes with great hardware. It does come with EWG hooks on it, which I feel a little bit mixed about because I don't typically throw EWG hooks on my jerk baits. I like the ST36 round bend trebles by Owner, and so I've always found that just a little interesting. But the Smithwick Rogue is a great bait, but most of them are floaters, and I don't throw a lot of floating jerk baits. I throw suspenders. I throw some slow floaters, and I throw more slow sinking jerk baits. Specifically, the Rapala Shadow Wrap is a slow sinker, just like that Lightning Pointer I showed you. Those two are the slow sinkers that I like to throw. Otherwise, I will modify a suspender. Now, there's 2 more products I've got in here that I want to show you. And I fully intend to do giveaways on these. But first is the Rage Tail Structure Bug, aka the Rage Bug. This in the pearl white color. Now, in my opinion, this bait is awesome for 2 different applications. Can you guys guess in the comments which applications I'm thinking of? Ray, fondling the new Lose light reel? Extremely light. Bass catcher for life. Biggest bass on a jerk bait. Oh, about 4 pounds. Guggen Slayer, you use the Provoke. That's your favorite. Right on. Tim Dunn says, I've been a Rapala man for 40 years. Don't know why. Just have always done the job for me. Well, Rapala has been in business for a long ass time and still have some of the best quality control, durability in their baits. They're the best, most reputable brand worldwide. I mean, you don't have to say anything else, man. They make different baits for all sorts of applications, right? They make the Shadow Wrap Shad, they make the Shadow Wrap, they make the X Wrap, they make the Husky Jerk, and probably a few others that I'm not thinking of. They've got the floaters, the countdowns. They make jerk baits out the wazoo. Ray says, no, it's not okay. It sucks, actually. Who would want to have confidence in a proven lure? True. No, I'm just saying it's fine. Everybody fishes different lures. I mean, of course you want to build up that confidence, but you don't need to get down on yourself for not having confidence in a jerkbait at this point in time. Guggen Slayer, G Finesse hooks coming soon for your jerkbaits. Yeah, I've heard that the Aaron Martin's nano trebles are great too, but I really like those ST36s. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Riley says, that's understandable. I've been a Berkeley fan for a long time. Yeah. Do you use the Berkeley cutter jerkbait or not, Riley? All right. Sorry I didn't keep up very well as I was responding, talking about jerkbaits for a minute. I'm a little bit distracted by the fact that these baits are all twisted up in the pack. That kind of thing always bugs me a little bit. Anyway, this right here is the Rage Bug by Strike King in the pearl white color. The question was, what two applications do you think? I'm going to say I think this color of this bait is best utilized for. Like, why did I get this color Rage Bug? Considering I like to throw the Rage Bug in most other colors, but wouldn't ordinarily get it in a white. Pretty sure I've got it in green pumpkin. I've got it in black and blue. My favorite color is the chameleon. I've got it in peanut butter and jelly. Ray says Texas rig and skipping jig. Brian says spawn so you can see it. Ray says or chatterbait trailer. Okay, you guys pretty much just hit it there on guesses 2 and 3. So I'll give it to Brian. Yeah, the spawn, man. White color, craw or creature bait during the spawn is one of the best baits that you can throw. Not because the fish eat it more, but because you, the angler, can see it better. Okay? Water clarity is going to vary during the spawn. Sometimes it's clearer than others, but what happens is the fish will either be locked onto the bed or will be slightly off the bed. You pitch your bait onto the bed and you move it around until it really hits a nerve and they have to come chase it off. Now, a bait fish will get chased off, but a lure will not. So what they do is they pick it up, usually by the claws or the tail, or whatever, just the edge, and they will pick it up, swim off, and drop it. So the biggest issue that bed fishermen have is throwing a bait that's a little bit too big. The fish picking up the tip of it, moving it, and you set the hook and pull it out of its mouth. Okay? So it takes a lot of work to actually hook the fish. So using a white bait allows you to really see when that fish has fully engulfed the bait as opposed to just getting the edges. So, of course, you got to have patience. You got to keep working at it, but a white craw or creature bait is the deal. Okay? Ray says, I got you into white. Now you got white Strike King and Z-Man everything. Yeah, well, your second guess was spot on, Ray. Swim jig and or chatterbait trailer is my second application. I like to throw white in stained water to imitate shad, or just in stained water, period, to help the bait stand out. I like black and blue in muddy water, but I really like white in stained water. Use a lot of white flukes for the same reason. You can see it a lot better. Yep, absolutely. Bang, got them right there. White pearl flukes. This is a backup pack. Got a whole box of them. I've got white in the flukes and the caffeine shads by Strike King. Of course, the flukes are more of a suspender, slow sink, and the caffeine shads are more of a fast sink. a little bit different times and places that you'd use each one of those soft jerk baits. So anyway, my intent is to give away one of these packs during the spawn, say in next month's giveaway for the month of April. For March, I'm still going to do kind of a pre-spawn pack. And that leads me to the last thing in this package from Discount Tackle. The world's hottest lure right now. And no, Ray, it's not the Vision 110 in the stain reaction color that the Bassmaster Classic was won on, but rather the Fire Craw Jackhammer Chatterbait that everybody in the Bassmaster Classic was throwing. For some reason, this bait is worth some gold right now. You can sell these bad boys on eBay for freaking $40 a pop, which is just ridiculous, right? They retail for $16 each. This color is out of stock everywhere. Everywhere. You're right, Tim. You can't find it. You got to go on eBay and find somebody who's trying to make a profit on them. But here's the deal. Just like I mentioned I did with the Thunder Crickets, I set that notify button, clicked that notify button next to this color, which was sold out a few weeks ago. Riley. You know what? I'll send me a message after this and we'll talk about it. But there are a lot of colors. Like I mentioned earlier, the Beehite Delight is probably the one color that I would use most frequently. It imitates a bluegill really well, but that chartreuse bottom really helps it stand out in stained water and most conditions. It is a green pumpkin top, and it performs well kind of everywhere. And the green pumpkin shad is great if you've got more shad in your waters. The white is extremely versatile if your primary bait fish are shad as well. So I told Ray initially to get white and Beehite Delight. Anyway, Ray says he'll trade me some Lysol for one of these. That's hilarious. Lysol's going for $117 a can on Amazon. Get the hell out of here. There is no toilet paper to be found anywhere these days. I was in the store grocery shopping for the second time in 2 days today. You can't find pasta, rice, toilet paper, baby wipes, or any kind of meat that's not frozen. Can't find chicken, steak, pork, none of that. Okay? I mean, times are crazy right now. Absolutely nuts. So the Fire Craw Jackhammer Chatterbait is the hottest lure in bass fishing right now. I've actually never thrown this color. As I told you guys, I really like the Fire Craw, or sorry, the Heights Hot Craw color. It's a green pumpkin top and more of a true red bottom. And the head is painted kind of a blend of both. It is the equivalent to Strike King's Falcon Lake Craw. Okay? More of a real red, whereas the Fire Craw is like a day-glow orange type of color. Look how bright that head is. It's absolutely insane. So anyway, in muddy water, stained water, in the springtime, fish will munch this big time. And that was proven at the Bassmaster Classic when most of the pro anglers were throwing this bait. So for some reason, it's actually been out of stock for a while now. Maybe because the pros were buying them all up, and then the word got out. And either way, they are super, super in demand. Ray, I'm actually good on bleach and Lysol at the moment. My wife stocks up pretty well with cleaning products here in our house. Now, if you've got a few dozen rolls of toilet paper, hit me up. I'm kidding. I'm going to probably hang on to these, but my initial intention was to give one of these away in this month's giveaway, and I still very well might do that. And the giveaway is going to be announced in the next few days. So, I don't even need to ask you guys, oh, should I give this away? Yeah, of course you guys want this bait. But it freaks me out a little bit to think about only having one and throwing it and starting to have a ton of success on it and then losing it, snagging it, and not having a backup to throw. That said, I've got the Falcon Lake Craw, Thunder Cricket. I've got 2, if not 3 actually, of the Heights Hot Craw jackhammers from last year. So I think I am going to give the one away. Just haven't decided what else I'm going to throw in the pack. I did make an impulse purchase. Ray says, who won the last one? Never heard you mention it. I didn't mention it here on YouTube because, yes, it was somebody on Instagram. I might have put it in the caption or the description of that YouTube video that I posted last month announcing the giveaway. But at this point in time, your odds just are better on Instagram, to be honest. You can enter multiple times, and there are more entries there, period. So, Bass Catcher for Life. Never caught one on a chatterbait before. Damn, dude. Maybe if I win that one, I'll get my first chatterbait bass. Now, man, you can get one on any chatterbait. You don't need that color. Brian says, better keep it. Know how that feels. Yeah, but same time, here's what I did. Just like I did a couple weeks ago, I hit that notify me button. If you guys haven't already done that, do that now, and then we'll just be competing with each other. There's 9 of you guys in here aside from me, and I don't mind telling you guys right now. If you go on to discounttackle.com and look up the jackhammer chatterbait, there's 2 separate pages, one for the 3/8 ounce, one for the 1/2 ounce. Those are the only 2 sizes that the fire craw color comes in. They don't make it in the 3/4 or the 1 1/4. So go to either the 3/8 or the 1/2 ounce and scroll to the bottom where it says out of stock, and find that fire craw color. And right next to where it says out of stock, there's a button that says notify me. You click that and plug in your email address and hit enter, and they will literally send you an email on the day that it comes back in stock, and they put it up in their system. So then it's just a race to see who can fill up their cart and place the order and claim one, which is exactly what I did with those Thunder Crickets 2 weeks ago and these jackhammers last week. So literally, when these guys were hot as fire, they came in stock. I was notified, and I picked 2 of them up just because I thought, well, for good measure, I might as well get 2 instead of 1. You know, they are a little bit pricey, but screw it. I got to get them. And then my thought immediately was, I should give one away. It's a perfect pre-spawn giveaway bait. And then I realized just how insane everybody's going over them and how much they're selling for online. So then I was a little bit tempted to like make a YouTube video posting an eBay auction, seeing how much money I could get for one. Never really intending to sell it, just to see how much I could get for it, and then canceling the auction, or intentionally setting it at like, $80, knowing that it's probably not going to sell for that, just to watch the price run up, and then when it doesn't sell, then throw it in the giveaway. I still might do that just for the sake of a fun video, but I fully intend to throw that in this month's giveaway and make somebody very happy, even though it is super in demand and worth a lot of money right now. Now, I did make an impulse purchase on Tackle Warehouse the other day because they had like a Bassmaster Classic sale going on until Monday. So over the weekend until Monday, they were selling a bunch of products for, I don't know if it was 20%. No, a lot of them were more than 20% off. It was like clearance type of stuff. And So I picked up some funky stuff that that I wouldn't ordinarily buy just because the prices were too good. Couldn't help it. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. See what my order was. But you'll see that soon enough. It's too bad I didn't get that in the mail today to show you. I won't get it tomorrow. I very well might stream tomorrow night and hang out with you guys. But I think I ordered a couple jerk baits that I don't already have. It was all stuff that was like relatively expensive, you know, $12 baits that were like 50% off. So pretty tough to turn that down. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I'm on my iPad, and what'd you say there? How about a signed merch from Tyler himself to sweeten the pot? Sure, man. I don't have any merch, man. Hooksets are free. Eventually, dude. I'll make some stickers and shirts and stuff. Yeah, I thought you might appreciate that handwritten letter when I sent you those baits. Those things are 15 bucks. Holy cow. Rather buy toilet paper. No, they retail for 15 bucks. They're selling for $40, sometimes more, on eBay right now. Like, people are losing their freaking minds, dude. I spend $15. Well, discount tackle, you get them for $12.79, all right? That's what I paid for each of these. So, I spent 26 bucks for two of them, and I could get $40 for one of them. So, a little bit tempting, I'll say. But as I mentioned earlier, man, it is worth the 16 bucks. Bass catcher. Someday, you got to make the investment. Ray, that's generous of you to say. And I'm glad you liked the letter. I don't always do that. You know, in past months, uh, when sending out the giveaways, you know, I don't have cards or anything like that. So sometimes I've just shipped out the baits and not even written anything in there. Like, they know where it's coming from, they know what it is. But not until like 2 months ago did I actually start writing, you know, congrats, thanks for the support. You know, tag me in some catches or let me know how you do with these lures, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, a little touch like that, little handwritten note does go a long way, generally speaking. So, wish list, no. Cart, no. Where? I know I'm close. Where is it? I'm logged on to Tackle Warehouse. Order history. Here we are. Finish this beer and crack another one. We're 2 hours in, guys. I'm only gonna hang out a little bit longer. All right. So I've placed 3 orders this year. 2 in the last month. Which I shouldn't be, given that I'm shopping at Discount Tackle so frequently as well. All right, here's the weird order that I made. I bought a couple 6 cents plastics. Brian says, will putting all of your soft plastics in hot water really fix the baits when they're bent up? Yes. It depends on what baits they are and how you set them after boiling them. But absolutely, you just have to lay them down flat so that they don't bend right back up. But it's really tough to do with, say, you know, a soft plastic swim bait. Like, See how this tail is bent to the side like that? You're not going to be able to boil this and then set it down and hope that it's going to be flat. Like, these tails just want to go every which way. So the ones that I have out like this, not in the clamshells, I'm constantly fiddling with them and flipping them over, laying them down on their other side every few days, just so that it kind of bends back. But yeah, like the craws that rage bug that I just showed you, that are all like leaning one which way. You boil those for 30 seconds, pull it out, and lay it flat um, on a paper towel. They will flatten out. So um, I do recommend doing that. And I actually will put some of these baits, depending on which ones they are and how they look when I first get them, I will put them into Plano boxes. A lot of people don't recommend putting soft plastics into plastic boxes because they will warp them. And that is a fact. That generally speaking, they will warp the boxes, but you got to do what you got to do, you know? Ugh. So here's my beaver and bug box. And not sure if you can see here, but these dividers are not too warped. And I've found that when you pull the bugs out and let them lay flat, as opposed to in those clamshell packages, that they do just a little bit better at holding their shape. So that's what I tend to do most of the time. As you can see, I really like the Rage Bug. I've got it here in 5 colors in this one box. Also got the Bandito Bug in 3 colors. The Man Bear Pig in 2. Some baby brush hogs, lizards, and the Zoom Z-Craw in 2 colors. The Zoom Z-Craw is an awesome bait. But just like Zoom baits in general, you almost have to take them out of the package. Almost have to boil them or take care of them, because Zoom doesn't. They don't care, man. They shoot the plastics and they just throw them all together in a plastic bag, and you get what you get. And that sucks. That's one of my biggest gripes with Zoom, and the biggest reasons that I don't throw Zoom very frequently. Riley says, "How's your back doing after skiing?" Good after skiing, but just on a day-to-day level, it's okay. You know, honestly, sleep is what hurts my back more than anything. Playing with my daughters is probably the other thing that hurts my back the most. Yeah, I'm the monster in the house, chasing around my daughters. I'm picking them up, throwing them around, wrestling a lot. And so it's just little like everyday things. Unloading and loading the dishwasher, just that weird bending over that gets me more than like the compression of skiing, right? And that sort of physical action of just going up and down. That actually doesn't hurt my back very much. So I appreciate you asking, but unfortunately, pain is still something I'm dealing with and working on. We did just get that new bed last week or earlier this week. And not only is it nice to have the space, but the mattress is nice. So far, so good. That's helping a little bit. And it's just, slow and steady, right? Recovering. Bass catcher, may I ask, what program do you use to live stream? I'm using YouTube, dude. I used to, before I had 1,000 subscribers, I was simultaneously using my laptop webcam on YouTube, which you can do, and I was using my phone camera to stream on Instagram. I was doing them side by side, and then once 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, not only can you enable monetization, but you can enable mobile live streaming, which I tried to get set up a few weeks ago when I hit 1,000 subscribers. Maybe that was just 2 weeks ago, but didn't get the go ahead until just, today when I tried it. I noticed it was working. So I'm using my cell phone, just a Samsung Galaxy S7, and I've got it sitting on a mini tripod here, and I'm using the front facing selfie camera, streaming straight up through YouTube, through the YouTube app on my phone. So I have never used a streaming software service. I tried that before. It's a little bit complicated how you have to set up uh, how you have to encode the URL, and I wasn't able to get that totally figured out because I still wanted to use a mobile device to do so. Hopefully that answers your question, but um, I'm a little bit old school when it comes to my thought process in streaming. So soft plastics. I got the 6 cents Ned Fry in one other color. I've got it here in a couple colors. These are the clouts. Um, Ned Fry, Ned Fry. I didn't realize I had it in 3 colors already. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have gotten one of these. But they're only $5 a pack. They were on sale for $2.99 a pack. So or I think they retail it at $4 a pack, and they were 3. So I got one in the green pumpkin. I've got one in the ox blood, which is like a PB&J, and I've got one in the cinnamon crave color, which is like a smoke purple. And I bought one in what they call electric shiner. So looking forward to that. Got another one of their plastics, the Stroker Craw, which is like their version of, kind of like the Rage Bug, but not really. Kind of like the Kraken Craw, but not really, or the Rage Craw. It's got like rounded, almost grubby type of legs, and it's great on the back of like a swim jig or a chatterbait. So I got one pack of those to just see how I feel about them, and I got it in the green pumpkin. It is a 3.3-inch craw, so looking forward to checking that out. No worries, bass catcher. Have a great rest of your night. Look out for tomorrow night. I very well might be back on here, so enjoy the rest of your night, and I will see you next time, dude. Look out for that giveaway. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, go check me out there. Hooksets.are-free. And I post there quite a bit more frequently than I do here on YouTube, okay? Ray says, aha! Fought my first drop shot bass using one of those. What? Dude, you drop shotting a stroker craw? That's pretty cool. Interesting. I wouldn't normally think to do that. I usually drop shot a little bit more buoyant of baits, and usually more of like a worm profile, sometimes swim baits, but usually not craws, unless it's like a Z-Man craw that I know is going to stay where it is instead of pull that leader down. Usually, especially this time of year, I'm not going to work a drop shot super fast, but very interesting. The other 6 cents bait that I got was the Divine swim bait in the big size, the 4.4, and in their Ghost Ice Minnow color, which is, it's a white, like a shad, somewhere between clear and white with a lot of sparkle in it. So looking forward to trying that, and also using it as a standalone swim bait and as like a larger swim jig trailer. So got 3 packs of those. I got 1 pack of the new Missile Baits Quiver Worm in their GP3 color, and in the larger size in the 6.5 inch. So the Quiver is essentially an upsized version of the Ned Bomb or the Bomb Shot, which are all very similar in profile or look. It is a worm body with a spade tail. Okay? And John Cruz was using that on the back of a chatterbait. I think, using the new quiver worm, and a lot of people took notice. The quiver worm was one of the very few new releases at the Bassmaster Classic, so I was actually interested in that one more than some of the other baits that were released. I do like the look of some of those Matte Magic, Megabass, Vision 110 colors, but yeah, it's a different story. The quiver worm got my attention, and I want to at least try it. I think it could be a good Nico rig bait, a good swimming worm, and a good trailer. So anyway, I got it in the bigger size so that I could use it as a Nico rig um, primarily, but we'll see how that goes. The GP3 color is a cool green pumpkin, purple, not quite core shot color, but almost. Riley says, "Do you, Ray, or Tyler use 3/8 ounce tungsten weights often?" Um, yes, on a Texas rig I do. That's probably my go-to weight for a Texas rig. I like a 1/4 ounce and a 3/8 ounce the most often. Now I'll throw a 1/2 ounce um, up to an ounce if flipping, but 3/8 is probably, in my opinion, the my go-to size. So, like on this Tokyo rig, I've got two 3/8 ounce tungsten weights reversed, and so that gives it like a 3/4 ounce weight that I can flip with this Tokyo rig. Whereas on this one, I've just got a straight 1/2 ounce. Brian says, "Do you change your hollow body frog hooks out for a bigger hook? If not, do you bend them out and up?" I don't change out the hooks very often. I make a point to really only fish frogs that have good hooks. And yes, I do bend the hooks up pretty frequently on like half or even more of my frogs. The only thing is I try to prevent it from being so far up that it's going to pick up vegetation because I usually work my frogs pretty hard. I don't try to keep them in place too much. You know, I'm trying to make a commotion more than anything, and I throw frogs in slop more so than in open water. So I'd rather not bring in the frog and have to worry about taking vegetation off just as much as squeezing water out. So I like to buy frogs that one don't um, don't take on too much water, two that have good stock hooks on them, and three um, have good action built in and need the least amount of modification straight out of the pack. So hopefully that answers your question. Ray says he only uses 1/4 ounce and 1/8 ounce, but lead. Oh no, for tungsten he uses 3/8 ounce with lead only. Okay, Riley says, because I asked my friend to get me a couple. She got me 23 packs of them. Whoa, you have way too many. Wanted to see if anybody wants some. Holy shnikes. You have 23 packs of tungsten weights? How much did you have to pay for that? That's ridiculous. Yeah, I'll trade you up, Riley. Like I said, send me a message when we get off here, and I'll trade you some of your tungsten weight for a jackhammer chatterbait. How about that? We can talk about colors that you like and want. I can't offer you that fire craw, but definitely between like a Bee Height Delight, green pumpkin, white, or black and blue, might be able to part ways with one of those. So send me a message on Instagram when we get off, or sometime tomorrow, whenever you've got time. I know it's getting kind of late right now, but let's talk about that. I'll trade you. In addition to those soft plastics that I got, I also got 2 packs of the Kitech crazy flappers. I gave a few of these, no way, 25 to 30 bucks. Um, and she came back with all those. I hope you didn't have to pay her like another $100 for all those weights. Anyway, Kitech makes the crazy flapper. Do you guys know this bait? This is their craw / creature bait that has some amazing action on it. Okay, I'm a huge fan of it. I've got like 3 or 4 packs of every size, and really, really like it. It's not very durable, but it has awesome action. Really good in the summer if you're flipping it or throwing it on a Texas rig, but also a really, really good bait on the back of a swim jig or especially a chatterbait. So what I did was got 2 packs in their Delta Craw color, which is like a bright orangish red. And guess what? It's going to be a perfect pairing with this guy. So my giveaway is going to be one of these and 1 pack of the Kitech Crazy Flappers in the 3.6 inch in that Delta Craw color. Perfect match. You can rig it horizontal or vertical, and it's going to be ideal. So that might be the entire giveaway itself, is just those 2 baits, or I might end up giving a few other things away in it as well, other pre-spawn baits. Not quite sure. Now those one-off baits that I was referring to that I got because the price was just a little too tempting was a jerk bait made by Dual Hardcore. Not sure if you guys know that brand. I'm not even quite sure if they are a Japanese brand or not, but the way that they market themselves and the way that their products are made leads me to believe that they are a Japanese brand. They make a jerkbait called the Minnow Flat Chub 110. Dual Hardcore Flat Chub 110. And it retails for 12 bucks, and it was on sale for $5.98. So at $6 a jerkbait, I'll pretty much try anything. And they had some great looking colors. So I ended up getting 2 of them. And anyway, I got 2 of the Lucky Craft. Maybe just 1 of the what? No, 2. Lucky Craft makes a really unique crankbait that has been out a long, long time, but looks like it's being discontinued potentially. It was on super clearance, and I heard some people or read some stuff about people saying they were sad that it was maybe going out, and that is the Moon Salt. So they make it in a 100, a 200, a 250, a 300, a 350. It comes in varying diving depths. But what makes it really unique is that it's a crankbait with super loud rattles. So it sounds like a lipless crankbait, like a rattle trap coming through the water. But it looks and acts like a crankbait. So I ended up getting 2 in the smallest, shallowest diving size that they make. And it's called the CB100. And so I got 1 in the IU color and 1 in the red craw color. 1 more clear water and 1 more springtime. And that thing it dives just deep enough to not be a wake bait. It dives like 1 to 3 feet deep. You know, wake bait would be either surface or 0 to 2 feet, depending on how hard you're working that bait. But the Moon Salt CB100 is a really interesting looking bait. Should be loud, but not have a knocking sound. It should have loud rattles. So pretty excited to throw that into my arsenal and be something that's just a little different than some of the wake baits that I have, like the Movement 80 wake bait from 6 Cents, or the new Strike King KBD 2.5 wake that came out last year at ICAST. So anyway, last thing that I got in this tackle warehouse order that's about to come in the mail was a frog. And if you haven't noticed by now, I'm pretty seasonal in what I buy and what I use when, right? Like you haven't heard me talk about top waters at all in the last few months just because it's not a thing here until summertime. Straight up. Um, Ray, what are you talking about the 3.2 size? I'm pretty sure the stroker craw only comes in that size. Mine says it's a 3.3 inch. It's an 8 pack stroker craw, or maybe it does come in two sizes, but I got it in the smaller. What I ordered was the 6 cent stroker craw green pumpkin 3.3 inch 8 pack. Anyway, evergreen soft shell is the name of the frog. Okay, got it in the cool brown color, which for some reason maybe that color is being discontinued. $8.91. Might not sound so cheap, but for a frog, it's affordable. And that frog goes for like 16 bucks ordinarily. It was the only color going for that cheap. Some of the colors were going for like 11 or 12 bucks, but that is it's got a very similar look to one of my absolute favorite frogs. And that being the live target Copper's live target. This is the big size, and it's a brown and black frog. This one has a white belly. I'm not sure if the evergreen soft shell does or not. But the other thing that makes it unique is that instead of silicone legs, skirt legs, it has a feather tail. Okay. There's a few frogs on the market that are designed like that these days, and I really like the idea of that, but haven't tried them out. I think Teckle makes one of them. Maybe Jackal makes one, but I haven't really stepped up my frog game a ton. I've got the Teckle Sprinker and the Booyah Toad Runner just to try the differences. Got some other prop frogs. I've got some live targets and some Booyahs and some Spros and some Terminators, some Lunker Hunts, and some KVD Pop and Perch. And picked one of these up toward the end of last year. This is the Z-Man frog. Actually, surprisingly good. Really like this one. Super soft body, good hooks on it, but a unique shaped bottom and large profile. Like that bait. Okay. Brian, you try to get me to talk about top water. Yeah, honestly, I will talk more and more about top water as the season comes upon us. Okay? I know maybe it was you asking about whopper ploppers last time or about walking baits, but believe me, I still have a lot of all of that stuff. It's just not the right time of year. So there will be a time and a place, but here in Colorado, the window for top water is pretty short, pretty narrow. And we're talking June to September. And June is on the early side, September's on the late side. So like August is the time for top water. And you can stretch it on both ends for sure. But one guy who follows me on Instagram said I just asked in one of my recent posts, what'd you catch your first bass in 2020 on? And he said topwater frog at first light. And I'm like, what? Where do you live, man? And he says, southern Georgia, close to the Florida Georgia line. And I get it. In some places of the country, you could fish a frog year round, and that would be epic. I agree. Getting a blow up that scares you into a hook set is awesome. That is a fact. There's nothing quite like a topwater blow up. I love fishing a whop or popper. I love fishing a rat. Um, I love fishing a popper or a frog. Um, walking baits, I have kind of a love hate relationship with just because I feel like um, I've got better success on other baits. Um, they're more few and far between the situations where I have really good success with them. And there have to be bass blowing up on bait for a walking bait to really do its thing best for me personally. Maybe it's the bodies of water that I fish. Maybe it's the way that I fish. But I would rather throw other lures instead of a walking bait first. So anyway, we don't need to talk about top water right now, dude. Riley agrees. She says top water, or she says walking baits are not really her thing. Ray says MLF guys pulling in monster fish with topwater baits today. Some of the best bass footage you've ever seen. Water temp was in the low 60s. I've heard more and more of that this year than in past years. You can really stretch that window. That the second that you start to see bait fish in the shallows, you can start throwing a top water, and that you can even throw a top water during the spawn. But to me, I'd rather throw something that's going to give me a better chance at getting a bite. Because again, I'm not usually going out for an all-day excursion hoping to land the one big fish, the handful of big fish. I'm just trying to get bit, dude. So it totally depends on the scenario, but with where I fish and and the time of year, Colorado is a little bit colder. Our water is a little bit colder. It takes a while for the vegetation to really come up. So fishing a frog, there's a really tight window of time where you've got the proper setup for a frog to do its thing. A whopper plopper, sure, I might start trying that a little bit earlier in the season when the water's still a little bit cold to just see if I can get some blow ups. But I usually don't have the patience to throw a popper or a walking bait unless the conditions warrant it. So, just my opinion. And if you look where the guys are fishing, they're fishing in big fish waters and where the water temp doesn't dip down super low. So, for me, we're in the low 40s right now, and for where those guys are fishing, it's in the low 60s right now. It's a different ball game entirely in terms of what you can throw, when you can throw it, or maybe vice versa, when you can throw different lures and for how long throughout the year. I feel like I'm not even making sense anymore, but some of those places, like that guy in southern Georgia, throwing a frog in February, you can do that. Here in Colorado, if I'm lucky, I could throw one in June. But like I said, a lot of the reservoirs and lakes that I like to fish and plan to fish more this year are still frozen. Won't be fishable for another month. And the spawn won't happen until late May, early June. It's like some of my waters are almost like I live in the Midwest or the North. And and some of my smaller waters, like ponds and stuff, are a few months ahead. So it's all seasonal, regional, depends on where you are, right? So if you never get frozen over, it really extends the top water season and what you can do, what you can get away with. And So if top water is your thing, just like if swim baiting is your thing, you can get away with it more in some parts of the country than in others. And I hope that makes sense. Nine-pounder hit one. Got it all camera, replayed it in slow-mo a dozen times. That's badass. Savage. Skinny water, they don't like it above their head. Yep. We don't need to argue, guys. Riley says our water gets as low as 40 to 50 degrees. I believe that, even though you're in Louisiana. So, I mean, the thing is, when you've got cold water, it makes sense to throw cold water presentations like flat side and balsa crankbaits and jerk baits, where, if you're living in the South, closer to Florida, and your water doesn't really dip much below 50, then you're not going to flirt with those baits nearly as much. It doesn't make sense for you to throw them. You can just go straight to a square bill. And if you don't like throwing a jerk bait, you don't have the patience for it, or your water doesn't get clear enough to throw it, then it just doesn't make sense to. So everybody's conditions are a little bit different based on where you live, what your waters are like. Brian's from New Jersey. Just love top water. I hear you. Absolutely, man. I love swim baits. I intend, over the next few years to probably get more and more into swim baits. Not that I haven't already, but you don't fish in the winter. You don't fly fish. You don't river fish, stream fish. Are you a strictly bass guy? Whatever, Ray. You didn't piss me off. I'm not trying to be chippy. Maybe I'm a little bit argumentative. Not meaning to be though. Just saying everybody's a little bit different. Saltwater during the winter? I know. What do you fish for when you're not fishing for bass? What even are blackfish, man? Is that the name of a species for real? Blackfish. You mean black bass or you mean black something else? Stripers. Badass. So what are you throwing for stripers, dude? I assume, generally speaking, the fish are bigger, the gear is bigger, the baits are bigger. What are you throwing to catch your stripers mostly in salt water? I'm just not familiar with that. Clams. Holy shit. So you're throwing live bait for stripers on big spinning reels, or how do you do that? Poppers. Clams, poppers. Separate? Or metal jigs. Okay, yeah, you're rattling them off just in single comments. Interesting. Yeah, so not familiar with that game. Fishing saltwater for bigger species of fish, but find it fascinating, right? I mean, I think fishing in general is fascinating. Riley says dolphin and blue marlin are the best to fish for in saltwater. That's interesting. When I'm not fishing for bass, I'm fishing for trout in rivers. Fly fishing majority of the time. Now, I will throw a spinning rod with a small jerk bait or an inline spinner or a spoon, something like that. Um, but yeah, living in Colorado, being high alpine, there's a lot of really good trout fishing here, and obviously no salt water. So um, it's interesting to hear about that. Clams from big surf pools. Try living in the subtropics, even on an island, then moving to a place where it snows. Best spawn done back where I'm. Hmm? Bass spawn is done back where you're from. Just staging here where you live now, totally different. Absolutely, Ray. Yeah, I almost feel sorry for the dudes living in Florida, especially, um, and some of the guys in Texas where the spawn is over. I think the anticipation is huge, but then again, those guys they've had open water and decent fishing conditions for the last month or two. It's been pre-spawn for a while, and so I'm not really sorry for them that the spawn has already come and gone. But sometimes that window can go by so quickly in those places, and I kind of like where the whole middle of the country is where you really get a wider range and more overlap between pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, where your fish can be spawning over a period of 2 or 3 months. And I think that can be a pretty cool deal where you can run multiple patterns on the same body of water just based on what you see. And it's not necessarily just, okay, cut and dry, spawn is done, we're on to this season, and therefore we're throwing these baits. Riley says Lake Arthur is kind of over now. Right? Yeah, I don't feel sorry for those bastards. Yeah. Um, Lake Arthur in Texas? Like Austin? Probably mean Austin. Rayburn, Austin. Um, anyway, yeah, I mean, it's wild to see. And no, I don't feel too sorry for them because they've been fishing all winter when we've been sitting dreaming about it, waiting for the time. And so now is our freaking time. Just started fishing last week and it feels so good. I will be at, but multiple days per week. Like Arthur. Okay, I hear you. Um, so yeah, in general, my schedule is that I will fish a few times a week, every week. I'm not necessarily a weekend warrior. I don't have a boat and a family situation that I go out every Saturday and Sunday and hit it hard all day long like I do the ski slopes. It's just a different setup, right? My um, the way that I've been into fishing has been different over the last handful of years since really rediscovering my passion for fishing. Um, and so the way that I negotiate with my wife and my kids is also different. And it's not as fun for my wife to just sit back at home as opposed to us all be up in the mountains together and it feel kind of like vacation with her hang back with the girls and me be out on the slopes. So Ray says you don't miss the 19 million people, but definitely miss the fishing, salt and fresh. Yeah, pressure sucks, right? So that's one thing that's awesome about this time of year right now is that most people think it's still too early. And you get some harsh weather, and you do have to bear that a little bit when it comes to wind and rain, um, cloudy, cold weather that can come in during the spring. But most people don't really brave the waters just yet. So, um, something to think about. Come summertime, you got to take advantage of those windows. Early morning, try and beat the rush. Late evening, deal with some crowds, but try and get there after most people are kind of done and all of the non-fishermen are gone, right? And otherwise, you deal. It is what it is, unfortunately. So, guys, we're 2 hours and 40 minutes in. This is ridiculous. I gotta cut it. I mean, I not only do I need to probably start thinking about heading to bed, but this is the longest stream I've ever done, and I can't imagine anybody is going to rewatch this. So I am gonna leave it up on YouTube, but it's crazy how long we've been hanging out. So thank you so much for chilling. Uh, Always good to see you guys, and even though I don't see you, that's why I wish you'd hop on Instagram and go live with me, Riley. Maybe tomorrow night I'll jerry rig this so I'm live on both platforms, and we can actually see each other face to face. Maybe I'll flip you around and show you to Ray. But why don't you DM me tomorrow morning when you get up? Brian, I had fun too, man. Thanks for hanging out. Cheers. See you next time. If you're available and don't have anything better to do tomorrow night around the same time, 10:30 Eastern time, 8:30 Mountain Standard Time, chances are I'll hop on, find something specific. Mention in an email that he's curious to talk more about the Neko rig, I should say. And I would be happy to talk about that for a little while. So let's do that. Ray says, I look like the dude in the pic. Yeah, I believe you, man. But love to see you and talk to you, hear what your voice sounds like. See, you guys see my mannerisms and everything that I'm doing here, but I don't get to actually interact with you guys. I just see your comments pop up. So first and foremost, thank you guys for being more interactive tonight than normal. That's the reason I've stayed on for 2 hours and 42 minutes, is that there hasn't been a lot of like silence, a lot of pausing and me prompting you guys to ask questions. This has just been kind of a natural conversation, and I like that. So again, if I had to sum up, we didn't talk about a whole lot here. We talked about my fishing, just one of the 2 times that I went fishing this week. I went out another time, went pond hopping to 3 different places and caught 2 fish on jackhammer chatterbait, green pumpkin shad. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that. Caught a 2.5 pounder and not quite 2 pounder on the same stretch of bank, both within 5 to 10 minutes of each other, and that was pretty awesome. So anyway, we'll talk more tomorrow night. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Riley, send me that message tomorrow. No more top water talk, says Brian. You're damn right. We're done. Not really, but I'm happy to talk about top water from time to time. I just I try to keep things a little bit organized in saying we might as well talk about what's in season, right? I mean, I'm happy to talk about some wild stuff. Like, while on the topic of Neko rigs, we can talk about the giant TRD, because that kind of fits into the family. Half Ned rig, half Neko rig, half flipping bait worm. And we could talk about shaky heads. We could talk about stuff that kind of, bridges the gap. But topwater is just something that, like, I wish I could do, but won't have the opportunity to for a while. So talking about it is just going to get me a little worked up, as Ray thought that I was worked up. Maybe that was it. Is that Brian just got the best of me in asking those questions. So anyway, it was my fault. I bought the frog from Tackle Warehouse. Shouldn't have done that. There's a lot that I withheld from buying, and a lot that I have on my list to buy in a few months from now when it is time. So thank you guys for hanging out. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Sleep well tonight. Have a good day tomorrow. Don't get sick. Don't go to the stores. Practice social distancing. God bless you too, Ray. Appreciate you guys. You feel like family. So I will see you tomorrow or whenever next time is for you. Cheers, guys.